It looked like an older woman that was standing there next to her.
I see this figure. Half of his face was burnt off.
I'm seeing shadows.
Help me!
Now I'm starting to get scared.
The whole house is on fire.
It looked like somebody pushed her.
It's either fight or flight, and I was ready to fight.
Things were about to get worse.
It was the summer of 1999. I was working as an EMT. All of my aunts were nurses, so it was just something that I wanted to do, following footsteps.
EMT Riley Black and her partner Mike arrive at a hospital for a routine patient transfer.
It was third shift, so it was around 12:30 in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. This was a simple transport call. I was picking up a female patient. She was in her 80s. All we had to do was to take the patient down to hospice, which was only about maybe 15 miles down the road.
Hello? Anybody here?
There was a vibe. You just felt it the moment that you walked in. It's like hair on the back of your neck would stand up. You were like getting a little shiver here and there, you know, like, oof, we shouldn't be in here.
There's usually someone at the desk waiting for us.
I thought it was strange that the night nurse wasn't at her nurse's station.
Do you smell that?
I changed my socks. I swear.
Even the smell of the hospital was off. It didn't smell like a hospital. It smelled musty and old.
All right, well, our patient's in 314. Why don't we just grab her and go?
My partner and I went into the room 314. We found her sleeping in her bed. We heard a scream come from down this hallway. It was a really dark hallway. It was about maybe 100 feet from where we were standing. It was almost like a terrifying scream. At that time of night, you don't hear that kind of a wail coming from anybody, you know, unless they're in hurt or danger. So we backed up out of the room and we looked down the hall and we heard somebody ruffling about a couple doors down. We ran into the night nurse. She was really scattered and scared.
Are you okay?
There was something in there.
Tell me what happened.
She was floating above the patient, down the hall.
I was thinking that it's just a new nurse. She freaked herself out, that there's nothing that's going on here.
Okay, Mike will escort you back to the nurse's station.
As her partner comforts the nurse, Riley makes her way back to 314.
I could hear something coming out of room 314. This was kind of weird because the lady was sleeping. I could hear shuffling around the floor of her bed. It was not common for that to be heard because of the bed alarm that was underneath the patient would have went off if she got up, so I knew she wasn't out of bed.
Hello? Hey.
It looked like an older woman that was standing there next to her. She had on, looked like what was an old hospital gown.
You're not supposed to be in here.
She turned around and hissed at me, and it really scared me.
I saw it. It's in room 314. We have to get the patient out of there now. Call security.
The phone.
There was no phone line.
Mike, this is Riley, over. We need to get the patient out of there. Mike, do you copy?
Something came across my radio that I thought was interference because I couldn't make out what was being said.
Keep trying security. I'm going into the room.
I was looking for my partner, and he came running up the hallway.
I came to get you, and I saw something in the room.
Said that he walked past a room and he heard something moving in the room, and when he looked in there, he saw something floating next to a patient there too.
We have to grab her and go right now.
My partner and I looked, it looked like whatever it was, the spirit was trying to take the hand of the woman that was sleeping in the bed. My partner and I were standing in the doorway. The door slammed right in our face. It was like somebody on the other side was holding it closed. When I get scared, I just go into this second mode of survival skills that you have when you're faced with something like this. It's either fight or flight, and I was ready to fight. When I finally had a chance to open the door, it was like somebody unlocked it, and it just opened with ease. When we walked into the room, and it was a different feeling, a different vibe than it was like 30 seconds prior, we checked her pulse. We realized that she was no longer with us anymore. So I think the spirit that was there wanted to take her soul with it, wherever it was going.
This could be an entity whose job it was to escort the recently departed to the other side. The spirit might have appeared to be very malevolent because it had a job to do and wanted to do so without any distractions.
We finally got the phones working and the radios were working, so security came up and they opened up all the doors to the patients' rooms and checked every single patient's room on that floor and couldn't find anything. When we left that hospital, I was shaking. I had to take a moment to catch my breath, and I was shaking so bad. I will never go back there again to even deal with another patient, that I would send somebody else to go, because I didn't want to experience that ever again. I had nightmares about it for quite some time. It took a long time to forget what I'd seen and what I heard and what I felt and what I smelled. It's just something that takes time to get over, time to accept, time for your brain to like mull through it to see what it can process and what it can't. The paranormal experiences will always stay with me. I have all these questions now that I didn't have before.
Utah's mountainous terrain is a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts. But dangerous activities means a steady stream of patients at this small hospital. The hospital has recently hired 20-year-old pharmacy technician Devin Bean to help fill prescriptions.
It's rewarding in a way of like a sense of accomplishment, being able to be there for others. And for me, that's something that I've always loved doing. I've always loved listening and helping people.
12 years previous, Devin is a happy 8-year-old enjoying a games night with his family.
Yes.
I remember a family game night. I was 8 years old at the time. All of a sudden, the light bulb came flying out of the lamp. It's physically impossible. My other siblings, they were a little bit older than me, and they were basically covered in mystery.
The bulb must have been loose. Maybe differential heat expansion.
Or it could have been a ghost.
No, sweetie, there's no such thing as ghosts.
My father was like, oh, ghosts don't exist, that stuff is all fake. And as soon as he was talking about that, the TV stand crashed.
It's okay. It's okay.
It was truly terrifying. I remember my father looking at the TV stand in the glass in awe.
I'm gonna go get the broom.
He was like, okay, let's clean this up and go to sleep. Game night was just the first part of what was to come.
In certain cases, paranormal investigators will look for the presence of children. Children are emotional and hormonal cyclones of energy. And there is a theory that some opportunistic entities can latch onto that energy and use it for their own purposes. And when you have a family of children growing up like this, that's a lot of potential fuel for a haunting.
But game night was just the beginning.
One night, I remember going downstairs to get myself something to eat. We have this island in the middle of our kitchen, and I had left a gallon of milk on the island. The milk jug had been thrown from the island on the kitchen. I was like, oh, maybe it's just one of my siblings playing a prank on me.
Ben? Karen?
I remember walking around the corner and looking, And to my disbelief, there was nobody there. I was feeling scared and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to talk to my mother, but she was asleep. My body couldn't move. I wasn't able to scream for help. I remember hearing someone whisper my name in an evil tone. I see this tall, dark figure. Half of his face was burnt off. As soon as I saw his face, he was gone. The next morning, after seeing that and going through that, I felt crazy. I felt like no one could ever experience the exact same thing that I just saw.
Sweetie, what are you doing? What's wrong?
I saw something.
What, sweetie? What did you see?
I saw a man with a burnt face.
As soon as I said that, I remember seeing this stone look on her face.
Are you okay?
She, at that moment, looked terrified. She didn't know what to say.
What's wrong, Mom?
I'm okay, sweetie. But I saw something too, and I need to tell you.
She went on to tell me that when she gave birth to my older sister, she was put in a surgical operating room, and she saw the exact same tall, dark entity with half of his face burnt off.
No, no. It was terrifying. And
As she was telling me that, I had many things racing through my mind.
It's okay. I believe you.
I was feeling like maybe this thing has followed us since then. I was thinking maybe this thing has something that it wants from my family.
Don't be afraid, sweetie.
I was kind of in disbelief because it was just so crazy to me that this thing was real and it was no longer just what I thought was my imagination. It wasn't my mind playing tricks on me.
I'll protect you.
I felt my stomach drop because I knew that this thing was actually here. I knew things were about to get worse.
Until the birth of Devin's oldest sibling, there was no haunting associated with his family. But during that particular birth, Devin's mom saw the first sighting of this apparition. An apparition which had a severely burned face. Whether this entity was simply resident at the hospital for some reason and attached itself to Devin's mom is unknown. But one thing's for sure, after that night, he and his family would never be the same again.
12 years later, Devin is now working at the same hospital as a pharmacy technician. But the family is still struggling.
Over the years, I noticed that this negative dark entity had affected our lives and infested its way into our house. I remember coming home from a shift at work. There was this loud, like, booming sound. I remember hearing footsteps. And every time I would check, there was nothing there.
The dark presence is affecting Devin's family.
Me and my family had a lot of bad luck, from my dad getting injured at work to my mom having a lot of health issues. I started getting bad anxiety. I ended up being diagnosed with depression. I knew everything was connected to whatever this thing was. I was angry because at this point it was affecting my entire life. I remember thinking to myself that I have to find out what's going on. I have to find this entity and find its roots and get more information.
Driven to the breaking point, Devin takes matters into his own hands by returning to the very hospital room that is the source of his family's distress.
I found out the exact room my mom had given birth at. I was determined to go in there and get answers.
Who are you? What do you want?
I heard nothing, but then I reviewed it.
Who are you?
After asking for its name, I got in a deep, dark voice saying, "The Guardian."
What do you want?
Again, in the same voice, "We all have a favorite here." And that to me was like mind-blowing and shocking. Felt like it picked my mom and then eventually led itself into my entire family.
Get the hell out of our lives. You won't show yourself because you're not even real.
I regretted my decision to say that.
Returning home after work that night, Devin discovers that the dark entity has met his challenge.
The whole house is on fire. My father was at work. I knew I had to get my mother and my siblings out of the house. I told my mom, "We need to get you out of here," and I grabbed her portable oxygen tank and helped her out and had my sister follow. But my little brother wasn't outside with us.
Luis! 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 Hey, wake up! Luis,
How can he be asleep?
Luis, get up! Get up! Get up!
I felt like everything in the world had stopped. I felt like my heartbeat stopped.
Luis, get up! Get up now!
I have never experienced that type of fear in my life. I saw the shadow man in the flames. I felt like everything was moving in slow motion. Finally, I just had to smack him in his face to wake him up.
Come on, Luis, let's go. We gotta get out of here.
And I remember seeing him smile. I remember seeing him disappear and fade into the flames.
With Devon having confronted the burned man on his home turf, now the burned man pushes back. He's going to deal with Devon and his family in their safe place, their own home, by burning it down around their ears. Devon and his family are terrified, their lives are threatened. One can only imagine that the burned man is loving every minute of this, is loving all of the fear, all of the terror, all of the commotion. And they are lucky to escape from this inferno with their lives.
I had this feeling of sadness and dread as we were standing on our front lawn, watching my house being burnt down and all of our personal belongings being destroyed in this fire. But at the same time, I felt relieved because we all escaped without any harm, no damage to our lungs from the smoke, nothing like that. I still am amazed. I think with the fire happening, that's something that this entity did. I feel like that was his plan, and he wanted people inside there. Like, I felt like he wanted bloodshed. But after the house fire, I have not seen this entity. I haven't had any occurrences with him. It was like that weight that was on my shoulders with the depression and the anxiety. It was like years of that was lifted off of my shoulders.
As tragic as this fire was, with Devon and his family losing everything, all of their possessions, all of their sentimental items, and their very home itself, there is one small ray of light. They are at last free of the burned man's malign influence, and they can start their lives over in peace.
This has changed my life. I feel for the better. It has made me appreciate the little things in life. Appreciate my family a lot more and love them even more. It made me realize that family is something you can't put a price on, and something that will always be there for you.
The people hit hardest by the COVID-19 pandemic are the elderly and those in long-term care.
COVID infection rates are on the rise.
The east coast of America has been slammed by a tidal wave of COVID.
EMT and firefighter Jamie Adams has just heard a call to duty.
The COVID pandemic had hit, and the governor in my state had put out a request for medical volunteers. Anybody that has any medical training, I really wanted to help, not sit back and watch the news every day.
Room 17, she needs to be flipped onto her other side.
Got it.
And I just checked 13 and 15, they're respirators.
I was placed in a long-term living facility.
No, take care of that. The other stuff later.
I was just overwhelmed. We started losing residents.
By her third week on the job, Jamie was exhausted.
One night, we finally had a couple minutes to sit. And I remember putting my head down. I saw out of the corners of my eyes at first these shadows. I'm thinking it's got to be the shield. So I take my shield off because is it playing tricks on my eyes? I'm seeing shadows at both ends of the halls.
What's going on?
Can you see that? I'll go this way, and you.
Yep.
There's got to be a reason for it. So I go down to the other end of the hall. She's watching one way, I'm watching the other. I can hear footsteps behind me.
Did you hear that?
Now I'm starting to get scared. We hear this very loud scream that was female that says, "Help me," and it was very clear. We're walking down the hallway and physically checking every single room.
They check one final room. Even though Jamie's coworker recalls the room's patient having passed away recently.
She passed.
That scream wasn't a patient. That was in this room. There's nothing. There's nobody there.
When we start to take a look at the relationship between paranormal activity and this phenomenon of pandemics, we do see an increase in paranormal activity or reports during this time. We've got a situation where people are in a heightened state of fear. They're panicked, they're worried. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, and thought energy is energy. So we've got this sort of domino effect of people that are putting and pumping out this fear, this panic, this illness and upset and depression all into the environment.
Jamie starts to question her own sanity.
I was now starting to figure out that we aren't alone on this ward.
That was not, you know, explainable.
Oh, I know.
It's
haunted? I know. I've seen all kind of stuff here.
The nurse that I was with, she's like, oh, I see stuff in here all the time.
The next day, things were only about to get stranger for Jamie.
We had a couple that was brought in. They both had tested positive for COVID, and they were at a very end room. And they were in their room together. He was a very big man. That gentleman was actively dying.
I'm sorry.
We asked his wife, would you like to say goodbye? Would you like to sit and hold his hand? We can move your beds together. We gave her different options.
Just let me know when it happens.
And she rolls over and goes to sleep. And the nurse and I look at each other like, what? So we had finally just pulled the curtain because she made it clear that she didn't want any part of it. I had to take care of another resident. I was gone maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and in that time frame, he had passed.
What do you think? Should we wake her up and tell her?
And the nurse and I will just let her sleep because she really has wanted no part of this. So we quietly remove the bed with his body out of there so that she's not in the same room. And it was later on that I found out that this was a very different kind of a marriage. It was almost like a love-hate thing. And they did not have a real loving relationship that the nurses had ever seen or witnessed. It was just this huge, toxic dynamic.
Later that night, Jamie and her coworker are at the nurse's station.
And the wife comes walking out to the nurse's station.
Hey, how you doing tonight? I had COVID. What do you think? Okay.
She took a nasty fall. She went down so hard, it looked like somebody pushed her. She had multiple fractures. All my hair was standing up on end. I was in complete shock. I saw a black shadow. You could tell by the size it was him. Her husband pushed her.
Jamie? Jamie?
I was in complete shock.
After her patient's accident, an air of darkness started to take over the ward.
I just felt like this depression had come over that unit. You walk off the wing, it felt different, and you walk back into the wing, and it's like this oppressive just weight on you. And it just got worse and worse and worse because you're dealing with death every single day.
Jamie fights through the dark shroud of death hanging over the unit and focuses on comforting her patients.
And these people, they can't have family come in. They can't have friends come in. So they're gonna die alone. We are the last touch that they're gonna feel. So I'm sitting with this one resident and talking to him, holding his hand, and I've got my head down and I'm saying a prayer. I'm just asking that he goes quickly and peacefully. I'm feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I just feel like this charging of the room. It wasn't anything that freaked me out, it was comforting. I've got goosebumps now just talking about it. I honestly think that it's former residents, and they're all coming into his room to say, "We're here with you."
The next day, things started to change.
We came into work. We weren't losing any more residents. I wasn't seeing any more death.
Hey, how's it going?
Actually, not bad.
Well, today's my last day.
Yeah.
It was really nice working with you.
Yeah. Until next time.
And I just keep going back to all of the energy changes that I felt throughout the time. I experienced such a wide range of emotions, and some were so intense. Being scared because we don't know what's going to happen with these people, and feeling completely at peace when things were finally starting to get better. It was almost like these spirits knew this COVID pandemic was going on. I think that they were there to take care of people when nobody else could.